I think this is going to be one of the most interesting shows we've ever done because it has to do with an industry that's absolutely vital to the defense of this country, to its continued economic success in the fields of defense, in the fields of space, in agriculture, in transportation. There's just nothing that the metal casting industry isn't connected with. It has a great deal to do with the success historically of the United States of America. It's an ancient art form. It goes way back to the Bronze Age and beyond. And it's one of the first recyclers. It takes old cars and trucks and things like that and melts them and turns them into very useful products that we ship all over the world to make it a better place. And it's vital that people who make decisions understand the importance of the metal casting industry, the foundry industry. Stick around. You're going to like it. Hi, my next guest is Neal Wahlstrom. Neal has one of the most interesting foundry businesses, I think, in the Midwest. Neal, welcome.
Thank you, John.
What's the name of your company?
Smith Foundry Company.
Well, Smith Foundry has been around for quite a while, isn't it?
Yes, we have. We were founded in 1905.
And where are you located?
We're in the Phillips neighborhood of South Minneapolis. Been there for, as I said, almost 105 years.
It's been around for a long time, Smith Foundry has, and it's a good corporate citizen of the state of Minnesota, and especially South Minneapolis, I know that. And what is your elevator speech about the foundry industry? What is the foundry industry?
We are basic, we are primary, but we are very key to the overall economic engine of this country.
When you say the agricultural industry, are you talking about truck parts or Caterpillar parts? Or?
We're talking about tractors, we're talking about products that till soil, we're talking about...
Certainly important to Minnesota.
Absolutely. So those kinds of products all use castings. Foundries are really under the radar screen. Most people don't know what a foundry really does. They know the end products, the tractors, automotive, all those kinds of things, aerospace. But really, castings are fundamental in the use and function of every one of those things.
Well, Neal, I know that all these, the aerospace industry, the defense industry, the transportation industry, you named agriculture, which is the #1 industry in the state of Minnesota. So the ripple effect from your company out to the state is almost immediate, isn't it?
Yes, we touch almost every area.
Well, that's really fascinating. You employ a lot of people, and are you looking for new people in this industry?
Well, we always are looking for new people, but Smith Foundry currently employs 85 people. Many of them are highly skilled people, but the entry-level people we will train, bring along, and
it pays good wages with benefits, doesn't it?
Yeah, wages are very competitive, and benefit packages are also very good.
Well, were you watching out there, you can apply at Smith Foundry, South Minneapolis. Great company to work for, great company to have a member. Thank you, Neal.
Thank you, John.
My next guest is a former president of Metal Casters Minnesota, our current treasurer, and a person who has kind of devoted his life to this important industry, Mike Sookie. Welcome, Mike.
Thank you, John.
How are you today?
Doing well.
Well, tell me, Mike, I've had a lot of nice talks with you, but I never really asked you how you got in the foundry business.
Actually, I started in the foundry business as an industrial engineer doing time studies over at Hitchcock Industries, or CPP.
And what kind of education is what you need to get into this industry? I mean, at your level.
Well, actually, I had a technical degree from Red Wing Technical College in industrial engineering, and then once I started working at the foundry, I went back and received a bachelor's degree from Minnesota State.
Well, you've seen a lot of change. You've seen, but I know that you and I have talked about the importance of the foundry industry to the state of Minnesota, to the United States of America. Why is it important?
Actually, it's important because it provides a lot of jobs. It's crucial to the defense of our country, and it actually keeps the farms rolling and a lot of the heavy industry going.
That's right. It's very important. Neal, who's a good friend of yours, Wahlstrom, was telling us that one of the big products people make is farm ag products, like tractors and...
That would be correct. A lot for like Caterpillar, John Deere, and the like.
But
yes.
also, when people pass laws that affect the foundry industry, they don't understand that they may affect the defense of the United States.
That is true too. There's a lot of environmental regulations that can really impact the viability of these foundries. I mean, foundries actually try to be environmentally friendly, but the laws seem to get tighter every year.
I think people can drive right by a foundry and not really know it's there. And some of them, you expect this big smokestack belching flames and things like that. It isn't like that at all, is it?
It's not like that at all. In fact, you go overseas, you go over to China, and it is that way, and that's who we have to compete with, and it's really unfair.
So what part of this industry is concerning itself with the safety of the workers?
I would say actually a lot does have to do with the environment inside the facilities, with the dust and the smoke. But most foundries are getting cleaned up, the standards have been passed, and more dust collection is being added.
Well, I know that these are good jobs. They're out there. Would you encourage people to come and work at a foundry?
I would encourage them. It's very interesting. There's a lot of engineering. People would be shocked at what it actually does take to make an iron casting or aluminum casting or steel.
That's right. Well, been doing this a long time, and our people here at Minnesota do it right, and it's because of people like Mike Sookie. Mike, thank you. My next guest is one of my oldest friends in this industry, and I've known him for quite a long time, Ken Damewood. Ken, welcome.
Thanks, John.
Ken, give us the name of your company and where you're located.
Northern Iron Machine. We're on 867 4th Street in East St. Paul.
An East Sider.
Yes.
And I know your business has been around for a long time, hasn't it?
About 106 years.
106 years. Now, how did you get into this industry?
I started working there after I got out of high school, and I ended up going to college while I worked there and ended up staying there.
Currently, Ken, what kind of products are you manufacturing in your plant?
We make from little shift lever pedals to transfer cases up to 250 pounds, wheel housings. Caterpillar is one of our larger customers. GE Locomotive are two of our largest customers that we build parts for.
Who are you in competition with these days, Ken?
China and India.
Is that right?
Are two of the largest competitors.
Well, I know that China doesn't have tort law, China doesn't have OSHA, China doesn't have all kinds of regulations that we have in this country. But the fact of the matter is, if they don't have all of these regulations and all these things that they have to do, like provide for the safety of the workers, they can compete with you at a much lower level and make a product much cheaper. And so it's hard to overcome, isn't it?
Yes, it is. A top engineer in China gets paid about $80 a week for an engineer.
Still, our people, our casting industry in the state of Minnesota is able to compete because in the end, we make a better product, I think.
Yeah, we do. We've recently received parts back from one of our larger customers that they pulled out of India because of quality issues and delivery also. And that was in the last 6 months. It was a huge sum of tooling that we received back. So there is positive things that we see out there, but there still is the chances of people pulling parts and moving to China. The threats are there.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of the story of our industry, and Ken is a big part of it, and big employer in St. Paul, and a guy who's very active in his community, and especially in the manufacturing community in the state of Minnesota. Ken, thank you for being our guest.
All right, thank you, John.
My next guest is, I think, he has one of the most interesting backgrounds to get into this business that I've ever heard of. And so he's kind of a Renaissance man. He's gone through a lot of different levels of education, and a very important person in this industry, former president of the Minnesota Metal Casters, Tim Hartigan.
Hi, John.
Welcome. Thank
you. Good to be here.
Good to have you. First of all, tell me the name and location of your business.
St. Paul Brass and Aluminum Foundry. We're in St. Paul, Minnesota, and we're the oldest manufacturer in the state of Minnesota.
Are you?
Yes.
How old?
We were founded in 1869.
And what kind of products do you make?
We make brass, bronze, and aluminum castings. We serve a pretty wide range of industries. We start with aerospace, some of the safety systems on the Boeing 787, for instance,
really?
Are castings that we make. We do a lot of oil and gas related things, a lot of pumping related things, and some recreational products as well.
What and where was your undergraduate work done?
I have a degree in studio arts from the University of Minnesota.
Yeah, that amazed me. But you went on, I think, to further your education.
Well, I got in the foundry industry just through dumb luck. I started out grinding in a foundry, and so that led to me becoming more involved in it. I very quickly realized that a studio arts background didn't necessarily prepare me for business.
But then again, maybe, because actually it's kind of an art form in a way.
It is. There's absolutely a lot of art and a lot of science that's involved in our industry, and we certainly do serve the arts. There's a lot of cast bronze sculpture out there.
Yeah, and you make some beautiful pieces. Like I know you always make a beautiful seal of the state of Minnesota made out of bronze. I love those things. For some of our guest speakers.
Yes, we're very proud of that.
Your industry is probably the first recyclers, aren't they?
Yes, we are. Yes, we recycle absolutely everything that we put into our furnace is recycled material, and these days a lot of it is post-consumer recycled as well.
What would be some of the products you use as the material that you turn into other products?
The recycled materials?
Yeah.
Aluminum car wheels are a big source of melt stock these days, and so that is actually post-consumer. Most other foundry melt stock that is recycled comes from post-industrial, so it's ended up back at a scrapyard. But most of the car wheels that are out there are made out of a very high grade of aluminum, and so it can be used directly as melt stock without any pre-processing.
And I've been to this foundry, and you can almost eat off the floors. It's amazing. It's the antithesis of what a lot of people think about as this kind of an industry. It's clean, it's safe, it's a good place to work, it pays good wages and has benefits, isn't that right?
That's correct, yes. We have a very highly trained and very well-paid workforce.
Well, you can find Tim in St. Paul and go over and say hello to him on every day except for St. Patrick's Day. Thanks, Tim.
That's true.
All the best.
Same to you, John. Thank you.
My next guest, Andy Fulton, heads up one of the most interesting companies I think in the United States, but it has to do with the space industry, it has to do with mining in northern Minnesota, or Chile. It has to do with worldwide industries, and Andy travels the globe. He's a very important member, a former president of ours, and also a very active member, not only in the state of Minnesota, the United States, but internationally in this industry. Andy Fulton. Welcome, Andy.
Thanks, John. You're more than kind with your words.
No, it's true.
It's a pleasure to sit down with you.
Could you tell us the name of your company and where it's located?
Absolutely. The business name is ME Global, where the forerunner name was Minneapolis Electric Steel. We started here in Minneapolis in 1917, and have been running a foundry continuously since then. Our operation right now is located in Duluth, Minnesota.
Yeah, and one of them. You have a lot of them.
Well, worldwide we have 2 in North America, 2 in South America, and a new one we're building over in Asia.
When we were in the congressman's office a time ago, Andy and I asked Andy to tell the congressperson, give us an example of what you do. So he holds out this picture of the space shuttle on its tracks going out in Florida to Cape Canaveral. And I said, well, what part of that is yours? And he said, the tracks that are on. Wasn't that right?
Yeah. One of the, in the return to flight, as I think it was called by NASA, after the Columbia disaster on reentry, there was a need to go through everything from top to bottom. You can't get into space until you can get the bird, as they call it, out onto the launch platform, and that required looking at the drive system for the mobile launch platform. All the track pads were deemed to be unsatisfactory based on NASA's engineering analysis, so we went in there and worked hand in hand with NASA and a group called USA, United Space Alliance, to redesign both physically the shape of the trackpad as well as the metallurgical properties of those trackpads, and then supplied over 1,000 trackpads to NASA for the successful return to flight.
So I want to take us from space to Duluth. That everything in between is Andy's domain there. And Andy has a very successful plant up in Duluth, and what they do is, and I've toured this plant, it's a wondrous sort of place, is makes the big devices that smash iron ore into its component parts that it can be made into steel or be shipped out the the Great Lakes, isn't that right?
Yeah, in essence, when ore is processed, it comes out of the ground in large pieces. And now this can be taconite in northern Minnesota, or it can be gold, copper, molybdenum, any one of these minerals, and it needs to be reduced in size. Now, the reduction process where we play a primary role is in large tumbling mills. As these mills tumble, we provide a bolt-in replaceable lining system that takes the impact and abuse of this ore being reduced from something fist size down to pebble size. It goes on to further processing where it actually gets to a talc consistency, and when it's at that stage, and now it's all wet. When it gets to that stage, then there's a process for liberating the final mineral. Whether it's a defense product that's used by the U.S. government, it's going to need some steel, and the steel comes from the iron ore that most likely comes out of northern Minnesota. And so whether it's the electronics that's used in the sophisticated devices that they have in these, in a tank, for example, that requires wiring, and that copper comes, from a mine in Arizona. And so we're involved in that indirectly, but in an important way.
Our next guest is Mark Krings. Mark is the president of Metal Casters of Minnesota, and a very important person in this industry, heads up a large company, and we're really lucky to have him. Mark, welcome.
Welcome, John. Thank you for having me.
Well, good to have you here. Tell us about the name of your company and where you're located.
Okay, Consolidated Precision Products. We're in Bloomington. We're a consortium of about 15 foundries now. We range from investment casting to sand casting. We are, at my site, we're about 530 employees at present.
Where in Bloomington are you? Bloomington, Minnesota, by the way.
Correct.
Bloomington, Minnesota.
Right at 86th and Lindale, in that area.
How many people do you employ?
530.
And what kind of products do you make?
We make structures for the aerospace industry, parts that go on the fuselage, parts that go on the engine, gearboxes, integral drive systems. So any airliner that you fly on has one of our parts on it.
You know, one thing that's interested me about this industry is I've met so many people who are running the industry, who started out grinding or doing something out in the shop and just walked in kind of, really didn't think about this as a career and used it as a job to get through school or something like that. And then through their education and their experience, it became a career. And some of these people make a lot of money.
Yes, it's exactly how it worked for me. Yeah, I started out, my father worked at the foundry. He got me in working night shift while I went to school. And I found it interesting enough to stay with it. And it's been fun. I enjoy it.
Well, tell me about Metal Casters of Minnesota. You're the president. What kind of organization is it?
Well, we're an organization of foundries and foundry suppliers, and we work to lobby the local governments and state governments and influence it to promote our industry. And in promoting our industry, we promote others indirectly.
I know if you had an elevator speech, it would be probably something like, Mr. and Mrs. Legislator, please pay attention to what we're doing because we're vital to the industry, the state of Minnesota, the United States of America, and international. Something like that, wouldn't
Exactly, it would. I mean, not only are we making parts for our commercial airline industry, we're also making parts for our military. And without the proper castings, our military doesn't fly.
Yeah, well, I want to say this. I think that if it weren't for this vital industry, we'd be buying our defense parts from China.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah, no, they're nice people, but I don't think we're going to do that.
And I don't want to fly with their parts either.
Well, my next guest is not only an interesting gentleman, but he's also a fun guy. We've had a lot of fun together in this industry, Tom Polkerbeck and I. And I think Tom's stories are, he actually lives part-time on a houseboat in the Mississippi River and has explored the whole thing up and down. I want to welcome Tom Polkerbeck.
Thank you, John. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Tom. And Tom is also a past president and a member of the board of directors of Metal Casters of Minnesota. Tom, you have a special kind of look at this industry, don't you? Different than others.
It's a little different than others. The majority of the people that I'm dealing with here are owners or they work in the foundry industry. IRB and General Foundry Products, which I'm the president of,
Okay, tell me that again. What's the name of your company?
IRB and GFP, which stands for General Foundry Products.
Okay, you make products for the foundry industry.
We do we sell consumables and we manufacture.
What kind of practical applications do you see for foundry products? In other words, what kinds of things do they make?
Oh, anything that you see that has a casting, everything from automotive. It can be everything from, you know, Sea-Doos all the way up through and into Caterpillar.
So when you're talking about a casting, I think it's something you pour molten iron into this form.
Yes.
And it comes out as a block of an engine or something?
Yes. There's a variety of different ways of doing it. You know, there's several different processes, depends upon the casting you're trying to achieve. But the majority of them are poured into either a sand type of a mold, and then whatever the void is, that's what the casting fills.
It's kind of hard to believe you can take sand and pour molten iron in and it doesn't just melt.
Well, it does burn out a little bit, but no, it holds it up into it's a binder systems and everything else that's in there that's designed to withstand the heat as it cools down.
So you're one of the oldest recyclers. Explain that part of your business, will you?
Well, it's primarily once somebody uses a casting, say an engine, like we go back to that. Once that engine is now no longer usable, no longer good, it gets put back in, it's remelted back down and reused to make possibly another engine.
Oh, you're no kidding. Well, so if I go by a junkyard, what I think of as a junkyard, big pile of scrap metal,
Yep.
that's going to be something brand new, isn't it?
Right. That's exactly right. Well, you see these cars, they're all crushed coming down the roads. They're going to a recycler.
I see. And then, so you actually melt that old Buick down and make a aeronautical part or something.
Yep. Absolutely.
That's amazing. So you use everything but the squeal, huh?
Yep.
Well, that's great. Well, Tom, we want to thank you. We want to thank you for your time on the board of directors of Metal Casters of Minnesota, your time as president, and traveling the states on our behalf. Thank you so much, Tom.
Thank you, John. Thanks for having me.
You bet. My next guest is Teresa Penkovsky. She has a unique look at the metal casting industry in the state of Minnesota. She sees it from a whole different angle, and it's very important that we have people like Teresa in our industry or it wouldn't exist. Teresa, welcome.
Hi, thank you.
What's the name of your company?
My company is Whether or Not Consulting, and it's called Whether or Not Consulting because I provide environmental compliance services as well as meteorological services.
Okay, slow down there a minute.
Sorry.
That gets pretty technical for our listening audience.
Yeah.
You are very much concerned with environmental matters vis-a-vis this industry.
That's correct. That's correct. All the industries in manufacturing, foundries included, they are required to comply with certain regulations that relate to stormwater, outdoor air quality,
everything the Chinese don't do.
Well, pretty much, yeah. Unfortunately, that's true. And the United States has very stringent regulations that require a lot of these industries to comply.
Well, I don't mean to be picking on our friends in China, but the fact of the matter is we have strict compliance regulations and laws.
Yes, we do.
And there's a reason for them, isn't there?
Yes, the environment needs protection, and with industry doing what they do, they need to be cognizant of, the condition of the atmosphere and condition of the environment as it is, and be able to respect that and be advocates for it. I can help you with finding out, first of all, which regulations apply to your company, and then I can help you through that process in terms of, the paperwork that's involved, connect you to the right agencies and organizations, and that sort of thing, so that you are doing the right thing and complying with the regulations and the law.
And also so that I don't poison the groundwater or the air, and that and our people don't want to do that, and that's why we have people like Trace. They want to go to Trace for advice as how to not do that.
Well, it's highly technical too, in so many ways, and usually the people in the foundry industry and other manufacturing industries, they have their own jobs to do, and the job that I do is ever changing, and it's really requires a lot of time to keep up with every regulation as it changes, because they do change so rapidly.
So when I know that you served on the board of directors of not only Minnesota Metal Casters, and you are a past president of ours, but you also are very active in the Foundry Society.
That's right.
So you have both, you wear a couple hats.
Yes, well, I'm also a former president of American Foundry Society as well, and so I'm a past president, I guess you would call it.
Boy, that's great experience.
So, it is.
And we're so lucky to have you and your knowledge available here to us, Metal Casters Minnesota. You've seen all these different products. Tell us why the metal casting industry is something that people who make the law, the legislators, the Congress people, why it's important to them that they understand this.
Oh, it's so important because this industry is, as many people may already know, is the foundation of pretty much everything we do and see around what we live around. And it's really important that they understand that metal casting industry is, I don't even know how to put it. They're just very important. They're the foundation of what needs to happen. Getting to know the group at Metal Casters in Minnesota and just the foundry industry alone is just fascinating to see how things are made.
We want to thank you for your service to the metal casters, to the metal casting industry, and hope you'll never leave our board of directors. And thank you so much for being here. Teresa Penkovsky. We'll be right back. Well, that's our show on the metal casting industry. I hope all you decision makers out there, you people in the legislature, city council people, mayors, congressmen, President of the United States, if he's listening, understands the importance of the metal casting industry to the United States of America. Please do things that complement it. It's important to you and it's important to our joint success. We'll see you next week.